And then we have our good and old friend Bob Hercules, who I first met down in Nicaragua when he was making a film, and he has a new film out. Been around a little bit, but it's going to be on WTTW Channel 11 Monday the 23rd, and it's called Radical Disciple, the story of Father Pfleger. Good morning to you, Bob Hercules.
Good morning to you, Michael and Katie.
And welcome,
guys again.
welcome back.
Great to be back.
We actually talked about the film before it came out. How many months back was that?
Well, it came out in late 2009, so it's been out for a while.
Yeah.
With all the news stuff.
It's not going to pick up.
You don't need him.
Who, me?
No, I think
it's
it's
yours.
Bob's. Here, let's just.
So, Bob, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. We're getting down to the minimalism here.
Yes, really.
Pretty soon it'll be 10 cans and wire.
Honest to
Yeah,
gosh.
so the film came out in 2009, and with all the stuff happening with Mike Pfleger lately, with the suspension by the Cardinal and other news, Michael Pfleger is always in the news. I talked to Channel 11. They decided to rebroadcast the show this Monday night.
Well, interesting because we are right on top of some really breaking news.
Yes, we are.
As of yesterday.
Yes, it's interesting because at about 3 o'clock, I texted Vince Clark, who is Mike's right-hand man, basically, and
Right.
said, do you have any news to her? Because I'm going to do this radio show today.
3 o'clock
He said, "No,
yesterday
nothing."
afternoon.
3 o'clock yesterday
Right.
afternoon. No news, he wrote. Then at 4 o'clock, I got email from him saying, you won't believe it, but the Cardinal has lifted the suspension, so Mike Pfleger is allowed to go back to the church, and he'll be there tomorrow morning.
Oh, hallelujah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is huge.
great news.
That's
Very
huge.
happy to hear that.
What do you think precipitated that? I mean, you follow Father Pfleger pretty closely. Katie, you know him from way, way back. And, I met him a couple of times. He's certainly an impressive guy. I love how he talks about racism, and we all have it. What do you think made the church back down, so to speak, the hierarchy?
I'm not sure they necessarily backed down, but I think he wanted a certain cooling off period, and he's done this before. So there's a precedent for the Cardinal suspending Pfleger. In my film, it's documented. He suspended him in 2008 during the presidential campaign, when, as you might recall, Pfleger kind of went off on Hillary Clinton
At Trinity.
At Trinity Church. So there's a precedence for this. I think it's a power struggle, really.
Truly.
What it is, as most of these things are, as you guys know. So I think Pfleger has kind of softened his tone a little bit, and the Cardinal has softened his tone. I think they've come to realize it's better if he stays in that church. The people love him at St. Sabina. There's no reason to move him out of that church. It'd be crazy in a time like this.
Well, what instigated it was a comment that Pfleger made on a Tavis Smiley interview,
Right, that's
where
right.
he said if he had to face being removed from St. Sabina's, he would leave the Catholic Church.
Right.
Which is somewhat inflammatory for a priest.
The thing is, he has actually said things like that before.
Oh, sure.
So
And
it's
even
not,
more
he's-
so.
I think he's told me that before. I've often, in all the
But-
interviews I did with him, I said, well, what happens if they move you out of the church? And he said, I might have to consider leaving the Catholic faith. And but for some reason, this particular time, the Cardinal got bent out of shape about
Right.
it and wanted to do something about it, I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're right. It is it's a power struggle.
it is, as always.
And one of the features of Father Pfleger is he is a power broker.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
He came into a situation at St. Sabina's when he started. How many?
Well, he's been there about 36 years.
Yeah,
the
36
late
years.
70s, right.
And turned it into something that a lot of parishes wish they had.
That's right. In fact, they don't take any money from the Archdiocese.
Oh, I didn't know
They've
that.
been on their own for many, many years.
Oh, my-
So you
What?
think
I did
about
not know
power.
that.
Yes. And so if you think about power in a parish, the fact that they are not reliant upon the Archdiocese at all.
Incredible.
It's a power base that they have. And I think that's a source of, in a funny way, is a source of irritation to the Cardinal.
Well, how widespread or how big a black Catholic population do we have in Chicago, and how many churches are there?
Catholic
And-
churches?
Yeah, Catholic
I
churches
mean,
that are predominantly black, African American.
There are very few Catholic churches that are predominantly African American, St. Sabina being the most prominent one. And that's another point. Why would you want to upset that balance by taking Father Flager out of a thriving church, predominantly African American church, the church has done so many great things in that community. They've transformed that community. Why would you want to change that?
Right.
My other point on this is a personal opinion, is what is the church? Is the church the cardinals and the bishops and the pope, or is the church the thousands and millions of people that go to the church? If the church is representative of the people in the parish, then why would you want to take Father Flager out of that church? Because if you go down to St. Sabina tomorrow morning at 11:15 and see his service, you'll see that it's a love
amazing.
fest.
It is
Tomorrow,
amazing.
I'm sure, will be amazing when he comes back. But I mean, you see that in our film. I think one of the things that I tried to show in the film was that there's so much press and negative press about Father Flager over the years because of he's controversial. He's an agitator, basically.
Yes, he is.
So in the film, I wanted to explore what made this man who he is now. And so one of the things I'm most proud of in the film is we go back in time. In fact, you're in the film, Katie, as you know, one of the people that we talked to about what formed this man. Well, how did he get so involved in the issue of race?
Actually, I really like that editing in that part of your film where
we made you look good.
Yeah, you did. How did that happen? God, how did that happen? No, it's just that you were interviewing Michael Flager and about what formed him in the mid '60s when we were teenagers in high school. And you cut to me, and we said the exact same thing about the black to white struggle that was going on uniquely where we grew up on the southwest side. And St. Sabina's was right in the middle of it.
It was.
Because I remember going to high school at Queen of Peace, and we had a lot of St. Sabina's girls, because it was an all-girl high school, there who were fresh from the racial battle that their parents had given in, sold their most prized possession, their family home, due to panic peddling and other unscrupulous things,
which we show in the film as well.
That the leadership of the city and the church both turned their back on and did no kind of organizing against.
Right.
I mean, the leadership really failed us.
Yes.
Back then, both from the city and the church. And go ahead, Michael.
Well, Katie, you knowing Father Flager when you all were young, what do you think moved him to be such a conscious person around race? I mean, later on in the film, Bob, he talks about his own racism and having to be corrected. And I'm in a current discussion with a lot of my high school buddies from 50 years back about racism in America. We're beginning to see the fallout between the sides. But in the film, Flager does talk about his sister and her being, I think, challenged a little bit.
Yes, his sister had a mental challenge, so that she was discriminated against in school.
And you think that was a major influence on him?
I think that was one of the forming issues in his life, and his parents were quite sensitive to that as well. And so they were fairly progressive people for that time period. And then, I think people like Katie and Tom Clark and all the people that he met had a big impact on him. And then, of course, the main thing we see in the film is he happened to attend this rally for Martin Luther King at Marquette Park in '65, and that was just horrendous. That was just a terrible event for him to witness as a teenager, seeing how all these epithets were hurled at Martin Luther King, and seeing people from his parish and other white parishes hurling things and throwing rocks at Martin Luther King. That changed his life.
Right. That was it. That's what he claims it was.
Right.
I just had one other question because, again, in our home audience here at the Heartland, we have the author of a book titled the same title as your movie. Now, who got the title first?
Well, I thought of the title. I have to take credit for it. coming up with a
McClure.
title for a film is always difficult, but somewhere along the way I came up with this idea of radical disciple, and it just seemed to be a perfect fit.
Perfect.
And then Bob McClure had been friends with him for a while. We had been talking about his book, my film, and he had a different title, and then his publisher called me at one point and said, "We love your title. Could we use it for the book?"
Okay.
And I thought, yeah, why not? Because maybe there'd be some synergy. In fact, what has happened is Bob McClure and I have kind of been on this road tour.
You're going on the
with
road
Father
together.
Flager. So we show the film. Flager is there to answer questions. Bob is there to answer questions about his book. So it's been actually a great fit.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Very good.
Well, one of the things that impressed me in the movie, it stuck with me, was that Father Flager says racism is United States' biggest addiction.
Yes.
More so than cocaine is the term he uses.
Right.
And I do think that racism is clearly still with us. A lot of people think it went out the wayside when we elected Barack Obama, but clearly maybe Obama transcend race on one level, but racism certainly has been an obstacle to the work he wants to do. And racism, clearly, for all of us who are out here in the real world, know that it still exists.
Yeah, every day. In fact, really, when you think about that, the birther movement, underneath it all, wasn't that really just racism? That whole thing.
Past tense.
So-
You're using past tense. We still have to, we're going to see a lot more of it when the re-election campaign starts.
Right.
Yeah, of course it was, and Jimmy Carter said it within 6 months of electing Barack Obama, that a lot of the opposition was, founded in racism. And those of us who went through the Harold Washington phenomenon here in
Yes,
Chicago
that's right.
recognize what we're seeing. When people couch it in different terms, like, where's his birth certificate? Please.
Remember Bernie Epton's campaign? It's
Never, before it's too late.
Before it's too late. Yes.
In the film, in the very beginning, there's a woman who I see on Channel 11 always defending the church against Father Flager.
Yes.
I don't know her name.
Marianne Hackett. She was at that time. I'm not sure if she still is president of the Catholic Citizens Council in Chicago. So she's a representative of the other side of the equation, which is the more conservative Catholic group in Chicago. But you know what? People look at her in the film as sort of a caricature, but my point is she has a genuine voice. There is a segment of the Catholic Church that feels that Flager has gone way too far, that you shouldn't be taking his message out to the streets, the gospel of the streets. The church should stay insular inside the church, and they are offended when Mike Flager takes on social issues, and that is quite
Well,
bothersome.
being a non-Catholic,
A big non-Catholic.
I was always kind of moved by the image of Catholic priests I had, maybe from films of, like supporting the little guy, the kind of Irish Catholic priest who,
You mean like Spencer Tracy?
Well, that's
and-
probably where I got it from, and that was
Bing
the image.
Crosby.
But clearly, I also had a babysitter as a kid who used to say, well, the priests all had meat during the war. And, a lot of anti-Catholic stuff
Yeah.
I heard too.
Sure.
I kind of guess
Not to
the question
mention
I would have to
abuse
you,
of
the
small
filmmaker,
children.
and Katie, the activist Catholic for many years, where do you think that progressive, conservative fault line in the Catholic Church plays out today? I mean, we did have a cardinal, or is it, going back before the current guy. Who's the head of the church?
Bernadine.
Bernadine Joe.
Yeah, Bernadine, who was
Well,
clearly
Bernadine
a progressive, kind of a socialist.
He became more, I think, socially active. I don't think he started out that way because he was a little more conservative. I think the thing that Mike Flager talks about is when he was coming of age, there were more activist priests.
Right.
There were people like Jack Egan, Monsignor Jack Egan, who is one of Mike's heroes, and the Berrigan brothers and all these others, and the liberation theology movement. Those were all there. And that was had a huge influence on Mike Flager, as we show in the film, actually.
And so many of them were pushed out of the church.
They were. I mean, Jack
basically,
Egan
there was no room for that kind of activism. Jack Egan survived because he was of the previous generation.
But Egan was banished for a while to Notre Dame. He was sent out
by
of the city.
really classy guy, Cardinal Cody.
That's right. Another kind of in the mold of Cardinal George.
Right.
Well, we have a school in our community here St. Scholastica, which clearly has had a tendency toward progressive issues. And I remember that isn't there something going on with the Vatican today of in kind of investigating all of these
we can't keep track of what the Vatican is doing.
They got a lot on their shoulders. One of my points on this whole issue is, why would you, when the church is involved in so many scandals and so many problems, why would you spend any time trying to move a man out of a church that is a thriving church, that he's a huge success. It's transformed the neighborhood. Why bother with Mike Flager when you have so many other problems? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
Actual problems, right.
No,
so
where
I've always
Flager
been baffled by that.
Flager and St. Sabinus could be held up as a model to follow
Absolutely.
in any other urban area for African American growth in Catholic Church.
If you want to bring people into the church, that's what my personal opinion is. That's what you would do. You would get more invested in the community. You would bring more people into the church if you were invested in the community. You know, the Catholic Church lost a lot of people on the South Side because of the changing neighborhoods, not just blacks, but other immigrant groups that came in, and they were there was a lot of not just racism, but xenophobia and everything else, and they lost people. They should be embracing those people.
Right.
And so Mike Flager is an example of somebody who embraces people.
So this, so the film is going to be shown again on WTTW on Monday night.
That's right, at 9 p.m.
So I should get my my handwriting arm all fixed up, because every time it's on, I get people walking in here going, "I saw you on TV last night."
You're the last person who does handwriting.
Yes, I'm the last person.
He's talking about autographing their hands.
Oh, I see.
You are listening to WWW 88.7's live from the Heartland Radio. We are Chicago Sound Alliance, this station, and we're here on the left end of your dial. You can listen to WWW or to our show in particular by going to www.org anywhere in the world, and you can see earlier editions as well as this one in a few days on youtube.com/Heartland Media. Bob, in our closing moments of this segment, I would like to ask you to tell us briefly about how you got interested in film, a couple of things you've done, and what's your next project. I've always liked you because you had I don't know where you got it, but you had the pickup truck during the Nicaragua elections, and that's where I met you. And I remember riding around all over Managua with you trying to, shoot and film.
Right. Yeah, we had a little hatchback, I think, and we put you in the back of the hatchback. You squeezed you back there. How I got into film, I remember seeing, you probably know this film, Hearts and Minds, the film about Vietnam. Remember that film?
Yes.
Peter Davis?
Peter Davis.
When I think I was a sophomore in college, I saw that film. I was fairly apolitical at the time, and I saw that film, and that was it had a huge impact. I mean, that just blew my mind, because he demythologized the Vietnam War, took it apart, and Westmoreland and all the lies and everything. And I thought, wow, this is something. And I was kind of getting into film anyway, and I thought, this is something I would like to do, is make films that make a statement, that raise issues that are about social justice, and that I really never stopped from that point on. I have a new film that I just finished with Cartemquin Films, who are one of my heroes personally, but we work together on this film. It's called A Good Man, and it's about Bill T. Jones, the controversial choreographer from New York. Right. And he did a dance work about Abraham Lincoln, which actually deals a lot with race. Speaking of race, and it was premiered at Ravinia Festival in 2009. So the film is about the creation of that work. For 2 years, we followed that creation, and so it's really about the creative process.
And don't you have a film about Obama too?
I do. I made a film a few years ago about President Obama, who was then Senator Obama, going to Africa, and that was a great experience too. So
yeah, we talked about that. In
fact, I made Barack Obama's bio piece for his campaign website, and most of it is derived from the Heartland Cafe.
The footage that was shot here. And it had my photos all over the wall, I remember.
That's right. He had a great speech here, and we used that because we looked at a million different things, but for some reason, here at the Heartland, he was really revved up. And it was a great speech he gave.
It was beautiful.
And the setting is just beautiful here, and it just worked for us, So
actually, Axelrod gave us a copy of all that footage, and I noticed that in that footage, there's Fred Anzavino, who is connected to Theo Uberke down the street at the No Exit. He is talking to Obama about medical marijuana, and Obama says right on this footage,
Really?
he says, "Well, I'm totally open to it. My mom died of cancer or something, and I'm
that's
open
right.
to alternative things." So I have held this back, this footage.
He's
But we're
holding
going to
it
put it out on YouTube.
for the re-election campaign.
All right.
Bob Hercules, what a joy to have you. Thanks for coming up.
Great to be here.
Coming down, rather, for you.
Yes.
And good luck with all that you do. And congratulations on Radical Disciple.
Thank you.
It's a
And
good
we'll
piece
see you
of
up
work.
at the McGaw Gym.
That's right.
And maybe I'll
let's,
see you at Mass one of these days at St.
That's right.
Sabina's.
let's have a big
Thank
round
you.
of applause for Bob Hercules.